Bonjour French 1. This should be the last video of the year as it's the video for the study guide for your final exam. I'm going to go kind of quickly, so if you need to pause or rewatch any of it, definitely do so. And of course, we'll quickly watch this video before you take your final in class. So the first section of your final is a listening section. Basically, they will give you some different pictures of different things going on, and you'll have to match them with some things that you hear in the conversation. So some of the things you'll hear in the conversation include Tu as des stylos, which is do you have some pens? Tu aimes la géographie, which is do you like geography? De quoi tu as besoin pour le cours, which is what do you need for the class? Est-ce qu'on a un examen aujourd'hui, which is do we have a test today? Il me faut un livre, which is I need a book. And l'examen c'est demain is the test is tomorrow. Again, you just kind of need to familiarize yourself with what these sound like so that if you were to see a picture of some pens or something that represented geography class or something like that, you'd be able to match them up. Second section is also a listening section. You'll hear a conversation between a girl named Emily and her friend Luca, who just met in front of the zoo. Based on what you hear in their conversation, you'll say whether some statements are true or false. So what you see below here is a mixture of some of the phrases that you'll actually hear in the conversation, so you'll need to be able to hear and recognize them. Some of them are the actual statements that you'll decide whether they are true or false. So again, just kind of be familiar with what all of these mean. You won't actually have to be able to write them, but you'll have to be able to hear them or read them and understand what they mean to be able to answer the questions. Tu as envie de visiter le zoo means do you feel like visiting the zoo? Si tu veux is what you say for if you want, as in it's a way of accepting invitation and saying yes. On téléphone à Sophie means we call Sophie. Elle pourrait venir avec nous is she could come with us. Je viens de visiter le zoo means I just visited the zoo. Remember, anytime you have that venir de, it's that you just did it. Ça te dit d'aller à la patinoire is do you feel like going to the ice rink? Je viens de visiter le musée. Again, I just visited the museum. Elle n'a pas le temps. She doesn't have the time. Elle n'a pas envie de visiter le zoo. She doesn't feel like visiting the zoo. Luca va aller à la patinoire. Luca is going to the ice rink. Elle vient de téléphoner à Sophie. Again, the vient de is she just called Sophie. And then ils vont visiter le musée. They're going to visit the museum in the future. The third and final listening section is based on some of this vocabulary. You'll have some conversations and some illustrations that you'll have to match up with those conversations. It's a lot like part A, but with some different vocabulary. So again, make sure you are able to recognize what these phrases mean when you hear them. Comment tu t'appelles is what is your name. Enchanté is nice to meet you. Qu'est-ce que tu aimes faire comme sport is what sports do you like to do. Il neige is it snowing or it snows. La montagne is a mountain. Quand est-ce que tu as les maths is when do you have math class. C'est difficile is it's difficult. Elle est comment literally means she is how or how is she. When they ask that, they're not asking for good or bad. They're asking what is she like, what does she look like, what's her personality like. Elle a les cheveux bruns, she has dark hair. And elle est marrante, she is funny. Then you get into some reading sections. The first reading section has to do with some vocabulary from our food unit that we just finished up. Basically, all you'll have to do is cross off the item that does not belong. They'll give you the category in English. They'll give you 4 items in French. You have to cross off what does not belong. So number 1, as far as meats go, le poulet is chicken, le porc is pork, le steak is steak. Only one that is not a meat is la quiche. That's that egg pie. For desserts, la glace is ice cream, le chocolat is chocolate, la tarte is like a pie or a tart. The only one that doesn't belong is la tartine, because remember that's when French people take a baguette-style bread and butter and jelly it like toast, which is definitely not a dessert, but instead a breakfast item. Breads include le croissant, which is just a croissant, la baguette, which is that long French bread, and then the word le pain is just the general word for bread. The only thing that doesn't belong there is le poisson, because it means fish. For sandwiches, le croque-monsieur is that fancy hot ham and cheese sandwich. Le sandwich au saucisson is a sausage or salami sandwich. Le sandwich au fromage is a cheese sandwich. Grenadine, though, is that pomegranate syrup water, so that is definitely not a sandwich. Salade is a side. Les légumes are vegetables. They are a side. And le riz, which is rice, is definitely a side. But le pork is a meat or a main dish. For drinks, la grenadine, like we just said, is that pomegranate syrup water. The coca is soda, and then the sirop de menthe is that mint-flavored water, but again, la quiche is that egg pie, not a drink. And finally, for breakfast foods, les céréales are cereal. Bacon is, of course, bacon. Pamplemousse is grapefruit. Only one that doesn't really make sense with breakfast is le poisson, because it is fish. The next reading section will have you matching some people with the activities that they do. Basically, they'll say something like, oh, I don't know, this person likes to faire de l'exercice, to do exercise, and you'll have to match it with the fact that they must also like to faire du jogging, to do jogging. Bottom line is, this is some vocab you need to be familiar with reading and understanding, not hearing and understanding like with the listening, and definitely not having to write these out. Faire de l'exercice is to do exercise. Faire de la photo is to do photography. La piscine is the pool. Nager is to swim. La montagne is a mountain. Faire du théâtre is to do theater or acting or drama. Faire du jogging is to do jogging. Souvent is often. An appareil photo numérique is a digital camera, and en hiver means in the wintertime. The next reading section will have you looking at a school schedule, which includes days of the week and classes at school, and answering some true-false questions about that schedule, such as true or false, Kofi a besoin d'un short. Kofi needs some shorts on a particular day. That would be a day that he has EPS PE class. So definitely be familiar with these words, because you'll see them both on the schedule and in the true-false statements that they make about that schedule. So we have Monday, which is lundi. We went backwards this time. Wednesday, which is mercredi. Friday is vendredi. Anglais is English. There we switched back. Biologie is biology. Allemand is German. Chimie is chemistry. 2 heures is 2 hours, as in 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Le matin is the morning. À l'école is at school. Switching back here, Tuesday is mardi. Jeudi is Thursday. Français is French class. EPS is PE class. Histoire is history class. Géo is geography class. Art plastique is art class. L'après-midi is the afternoon. I know it gets caught up here. Kofi a besoin d'un short is Kofi needs some shorts. And then des baskets are tennis shoes. Then we get into some different kinds of fill-in-the-blank activities, technically probably more of a grammar activity than a reading activity here. Le, la, le, or L apostrophe. The way you know what goes in the blank is you have to look at the item that is being discussed and know whether that item is masculine, feminine, or plural, or starts with a vowel. I'll tell you again, I would work through my choices backwards. The first thing I would be looking for is whether the item ends in the letter S, because if it does, it's probably plural, and you can go ahead and write lay, and you don't have to think anymore. The second thing you want to look for is whether the item starts with a vowel, because if it does, you use L apostrophe and you don't have to think anymore. The only time you really have to narrow it down to whether it's masculine or feminine, le is masculine, la is feminine, is if you've eliminated those other two choices. And then you can actually look at some of these describing words. Remember, they'll make a describing word feminine by adding an E. If it's in its original form, like blue is here, then you know it's masculine, and that can clue you into whether these items are masculine or feminine if you had forgotten. So if you forgot, first of all, it's not plural, it doesn't start with a vowel, but a backpack is masculine. You can tell that from the word blue here, so you had to say le. Pencil case you might have forgotten, and you can't really tell here from the word red, but it is feminine and it is la. But you know me, I tend to put questions from the test on your study guide, so at least know these words, right? When I'm looking at this one, it's not plural, doesn't start with a vowel here. This is actually the word new. Here's your item, ordinateur, which is computer. Computer's masculine, and I know it technically starts with a vowel, but it's not right next to it, so you can still use your le, and it's no problem. Shorts are plural, so right off the bat, I'm going to use les. And binders, classeurs, are plural as well, so right off the bat, I'm going to use les. Then we get into our verb sections. The first verb section is going to be an ER verb section. That's the one that uses the ES, ES, ONS, ONS, OZ, 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 ENT endings. Don't forget the first step is to drop off the ER ending. So like with parlay, to get your stem, you would drop off this ER, and then you add the endings based on the subject. So I have the verb parler all conjugated out for you here. Je parle is I speak. Tu parles with an ES is you speak. Il, elle, on parle is he, she, or we speak. Nous parlons with the O and S is we speak. Vous parlez, y'all speak. And then ils and elles parlent, they speak. Same deal with RE verbs. With RE verbs, your ending song is SS, sh, SS, sh, ONS, ONS, EZ, ENT, EZ, ENT, les verbes RE, les verbes RE. So again, when you go to do an actual verb, like on your test, or in this case on vendre here, you drop off this RE ending and you add those endings there. And you get je vends, which is I sell, tu vends, which is you sell, il, elle, on vend, which is he, she, we sell. But look at the spelling difference. Nous vendons, which is we sell, vous vendez, which is y'all sell, and ils and elles vendent. Again, look at the endings because you don't hear the ENT. Finally, the most recent set of verbs are your IR verbs. These are the ones that go along with ES, ES, ite, ES, SO, NS, ESS, OZ, ES, SO, NT. And basically all you do again is drop off the IR and add those endings. So for the je ending, you get je finis with an IS, tu finis is you finish, il, elle, on finit is he, she, we finish. Nous finissons is y'all, or sorry, we finish. Vous finissez is y'all finish, and ils and elles finissent is they finish. Again, I know some of these end up looking really long and complicated because the endings are long and complicated, but only drop the EIR and then add those endings and you'll never go wrong. There are a couple of irregular verbs on this test. Basically, they'll be in multiple choice forms, so while I'm just writing them in on the chart here, realize you'll just have to recognize them from a multiple choice section. For the verb aller, for the verb to go, don't forget about your forms. We just did this right back in April. Je vais is I go, tu vas is you go, il, elle, on va is he, she, or we go, nous allons is we go, vous allez is y'all go, and ils and elles vont is they go. The other irregular verb that we just did back in April is the forms of the verb venir. Venir means to come. You have the je form, which is je viens. Tu viens is you come, and il, elle, on vient is he, she, or we come. It sounds the same, but look at those ending differences. Nous venons is we come, vous venez is y'all come, and ils and elles viennent is they come. Don't forget it is technically a boot verb, so all the forms inside the boot, meaning the je, tu, il, and ils forms, start with V-I-E-N, and maybe that'll jog your memory. There is a section about partitive articles, which we talked about in class. Partitive articles are those D words that mean some of an item. So basically you have to look at the item and decide which article to use. It'll be multiple choice, just like this practice is here. Remember, I recommend working through your choices backwards. Start with whether the item's plural, because if it's plural, you know it has to be they and you don't have to think anymore. You might also want to think about whether you talk about a or an entire one of those items or some of those items. And then finally, if you can't figure out just based on whether it's plural or starts with a vowel, then you have to have that debate on whether it's masculine or feminine. The nice thing is you have some choices here. So when you're looking at céréales, right off the bat, you see there's an S there. You should know the only plural option up there is they, and you should choose letter C. Now when it comes to baguette, it gets a little bit more complicated, but if you notice that de L apostrophe goes along with when something starts with a vowel, right away you can eliminate letter B as a choice. At that point in time, you're stuck with deciding whether baguette is masculine or feminine, and it is indeed masculine. I would like some baguette with butter is du baguette avec du beurre. When you're looking at café here, you can either have some coffee or a coffee, so that's kind of confusing, but if you'll notice, you have the feminine ones here for a and some, and the masculine one, un café, is your best option here because you want to say a coffee and coffee is masculine. And then with milk, again, if you notice it doesn't end in an S, you can at least get rid of letter B as a choice, but then it comes down to whether you know whether milk is masculine or feminine. It is indeed masculine, so it has to be du lait for some milk. The last two sections are writing sections, and excuse me for going so fast in the last minute of this video, but when you're deciding what people like to do in different kinds of weather and throughout the year, make sure that you include your season, such as en été, il fait chaud, in the summer, it's hot. And then say what we like to do. The way you say we like is nous aimons, and then have an activity that you like to do during that time. Nous aimons nager is we like to swim. The second things here say en hiver, which is in the winter, il fait froid, it's cold, and you can tell them how nous aimons faire du ski, we like to do skiing. Obviously there's a lot more seasons and weather and activities, but that gives you some options. And then finally, when you describe your school schedule, make sure you know how to say I have a class, which is j'ai. Pick some easy classes such as le PS or les maths. Make sure you describe 2 classes, say what you think of them, whether you like them or not, and then ask your pen pal a question as well. And we'll talk more about this in class.